Hello, everybody. I hope I'm audible. I'm not sure if you can see my slides. I hope you can. If not, please let me know in the comments. And, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk at this event. And, I would like to share some of my experience and knowledge about low latency technology and different kinds of optimizations that can be done to achieve the best latency. Before I get into that, I would like to quickly introduce myself. For one, I'm a father of three, so if you hear any background noise, please ignore that. Second disclosure, I am not a trader. I've never traded. The only trading strategy I've ever done is, buy and hold. I plan to be holding until my retirement. So that's about all of my trading experience. But I have a lot of experience from the technical side of the trading world. So my background is purely technical. I've studied information technology and computer networks at Brno University of Technology many years ago. And during these studies, I accepted a job offer to work as an FPGA developer for a project for US-based proprietary trading firm. So that's how I got into this space, into the trading world, even though I knew very little about it. But thanks to this opportunity, I've been working with trading firms, banks, brokers for the past 14 years, helping different companies and traders achieve the best performance they can get after the available technology. And when I was starting, it was quite hard to learn all the ropes and basically understand everything about trading and the infrastructures, the technology. So when working on this talk, I had this in mind, maybe what I would like to hear 14 years ago to get a better understanding about the trading world and the technologies. So this talk will be about latency. First, let's just clarify what I mean by latency. That's basically your reaction time. So the time from an event happening, like a trade in the market or a new price in the market, to your reaction, which is typically an order sent back to the trading venue or a cancel of your existing order. So latency, reaction time, that's what we will be mainly talking about today. And why is latency important? Well, one important factor is that most of the exchanges today use price time priority. That means that if there are multiple orders submitted at the same price, the earlier orders are executed first. So the early bird gets the worm. So if your order is later, you might miss the opportunity. Your order might not get traded. The second important factor is price slippage, because high latency means higher risk that the market price will change before your order gets to the exchange, and you might end up with a price that you didn't expect, which could then impact your P&L. So definitely latency can be a competitive advantage. It can lead to higher profits, but it's not a guarantee. In our experience, faster doesn't always mean better. It almost always means more expensive. To get faster, to trim more time from your reaction time, you need to invest more and more money, but you don't always get the returns. So one of the key things is to know and to understand what latency is required for different strategies or for your specific strategy that you are trying to run. And when it makes sense to not optimize further or not invest into technology and latency anymore, because you would see diminishing returns. And during this talk, I would like to talk about different latency tiers and how to achieve them. We would start from slow all the way to the fastest. And last thing before we get to the tiers is I wanted to discuss different factors that affect latency, because it's not a linear thing. It's not a single thing impacting latency. It's multiple. So one of the more important ones is distance, just simply a geographical location. How far away are you from the trading venue? The second part is network, the transmission medium, and the devices used like routers, switches, or different servers on the way. Third thing is processing units, whether your algorithms are running on a CPU, GPU, FPGAs, or ASICs. And finally, you can optimize the code itself, the algorithm, the software architecture, the server configuration, and so on and so on. So let's start at the very bottom of the latency spectrum, which is manual trading. I've also heard it called the point and click strategies. So the decisions to trade or not to trade is made by a human and entered manually into the market. That means the latency is typically in seconds. And even though the latency is quite high, it doesn't mean these strategies can't be profitable, right? If you pick the right stocks or if you pick the right trades, you can be profitable. And latency doesn't really hurt you. If you get faster, you probably wouldn't make more money. So even though like Musk is working on a direct interface between brain and computers, I'm not sure it would revolutionize manual trading, but we'll see. Either way, that's the basic or the first step from the point of view of latency. And if you move to the next stage, we get into algorithmic trading. So that's when the decision isn't made by a human, but by a machine. And since machines are faster than the human brain, you get better latency by automating the trading decision. And there are various ways to do that. You can use existing trade bots with pre-built strategies. There are different platforms and solutions that allow you to write custom rules, or you can implement your own algorithms. So different way how to get automated and how to implement algorithms and trading strategies. This should get you from seconds to milliseconds, and as the first step on a journey to lower latency. So now if you have an algorithm and you believe that lower latency will get you high profit, the first thing you typically focus on is geographical proximity. Einstein theorem says that nothing can travel than the speed of light in a vacuum. So right now we believe that's true if you don't count the world of science fiction. So that's some kind of a like limit for us. We can't get faster than that. And in the real world, we're typically slightly slower, like the light and the standard fiber optic cables that run the internet and connect different machines and servers all over the world. So in those cables, the light travels at roughly 2/3 of the speed of light in a vacuum. That means that every kilometer adds about 5 microseconds to your delay, and that's just the propagation delay only. How long does it take for the signal to travel through the cable? It doesn't include any other devices, switches and routers, which need to forward the signal at larger distances. So if every kilometer or even every meter adds additional latency, to get better latency, you need to be as close to the exchange or to the source of the signal as possible. So how do you do that? The closest you can be to an exchange is the same data center as where the exchange servers are located. That's called data center co-location. Well, fun fact, even the data center spans hundreds of meters. So the latency wouldn't be equal. You can be closer, further away from the exchange servers. But to ensure fairness, most of the exchanges do cable length equalization. That means no matter where you are in the data center, the cable will have the same length, which means there's a lot of coils of cables hanging around, because even the servers that are shorter needs to have the same length as the server that is furthest away. And we talk about kilometers and meters, but today even centimeters matter. We ourselves, during our internal tests, when we were measuring our solution and checking the latency, we ran into a problem where our latency was off by 1 or 2 nanoseconds. And after some debugging, we figured out that even though we have these two cables that were supposed to be the same length from the vendor, there was a few centimeters difference, and it already showed in the measurement, and the latency differed. So that's how far we've moved in the space of low latency and fairness. And probably the easiest way to get your algorithm to an exchange colocation is via a broker platform or some kind of a trading platform. So you don't have to own the infrastructure. I think you just work with a partner where you can run your trading algorithm. If you need to get even faster than that, then the next step is getting your own server in the colocation and your own connectivity to the exchange. You can get both direct space and exchange connectivity via managed service provider, and there are typically different offerings with different trade-offs between cost and latency. You can have a shared connection, so one exchange connection is shared between multiple clients, and the sharing can be done using a layer 3 switch, which usually adds hundreds of nanoseconds of latency, or a layer 1 switch, which is more expensive, but the latency is typically around 50 nanoseconds, so it's faster. Or the most expensive, but also the fastest solution is a direct connection. So it's not being shared, but your server or your infrastructure can be connected directly to the exchange. So now when you're co-located and you have your own server connected to the exchange, the next step, now we can get to optimizations of the software and server. So this gets fairly technical, so I probably won't get into too much details in this topic right now. If you're interested in anything in more detail, you can let me know in the comments. But some examples of these optimizations is getting specialized NICs, which means network interface cards with kernel bypass, which speeds up the communication between network and your software and your CPU. There are different techniques for tuning the BIOS to get the best performance, isolating the CPU core to avoid jitter and scheduling conflict, pinning threads, specific pieces of your software to dedicated cores, again to reduce the jitter, and other programming techniques like memory pre-allocations and all different C++ tricks that you can use to get the best performance out of your software. And finally, you can also get overclocked CPUs, which are running at a higher frequency and execute your software faster than the standard off-the-shelf CPUs. So if you invest a lot of time and effort into this, and your developers really fine-tune your software, your latency can get as low as single-digit microseconds, and that's measured from wire to wire. So the incoming message from the exchange, containing a trade or a price update in the exchange, on the input wire, all the way to the order message or the cancel message, the reaction that is sent back to the exchange on the outgoing wire. Because this is the latency that you have under control and the latency that matters. So as far as I know, the best software solutions reach these kinds of latencies. They are fully optimized, and you went through all the hoops to get the best out of your system. Now, what if that's still not enough? What if microseconds, you're in microseconds, but your competition is still fast, and you're losing on some of the opportunities? Well, then we need to move even closer to the exchange network. So the trading decision needs to be moved from the CPU, from software, directly onto the NIC, the network interface card, which is to be equipped with some kind of a chip that can execute your logic, your strategy, which is very often an FPGA chip. I'll quickly explain what an FPGA is. The abbreviation means Field Programmable Gate Array, and that's a programmable chip which can be customized for a specific algorithm. If you compare that to a CPU, that's a general purpose, so that's been designed so it can support a wide range of algorithms, but it's not that fast. Whereas FPGA, the hardware can actually be rewired, so the physical hardware basically changes to implement the logic, as optimally as possible for the given use case, which in this case would be a trading strategy. So now the trading decision is made in the FPGA chip directly on the NIC, which means you save the latency of communication between the network interface card and the host CPU. These messages are passed over PCIe Express bus, and these transactions are the hundreds of nanoseconds. So this is what you save by moving from software directly to hardware, and this can get you to wire-to-wire latency in nanoseconds. So now you went from microseconds to nanoseconds. And an interesting piece of information is that since you are now nanoseconds, not in microseconds, if you compare the software solution, by the time the software even sees the event, the new price in the market, the FPGA has already sent the response back. So if you're working with hardware, you are guaranteed to be faster than everyone else still using software. Similarly, if you're co-located, you are definitely faster than everyone else who is outside of the co-location because of the propagation delay. So that's how these latency tiers work. So I wanted to explain a bit more about what an FPGA is and what it offers. I mentioned that it's programmable, it can be customized, and the best thing about an FPGA is that it's a sweet spot between flexibility, performance, and cost. So when we compare to a CPU, standard processors, the FPGA is faster, but you keep some flexibility. You can still reprogram it once the FPGA is deployed. If you compare it to ASIC, which is custom hardware, it's slightly faster, but you can't reprogram it once the ASIC is done. So the functionality is fixed, and you wouldn't be able to change your trading strategy, for instance. So the FPGA is right in the middle. It's high performance, but still flexible. You can change the functionality. It also means that the time to market is shorter compared to custom hardware. It's slightly longer compared to CPU, but the performance, pays for that. So it's in the sweet spot between these metrics. So now we can ask the other question of why isn't everybody using FPGAs if they are so great? Because of course there will be some disadvantages. One of the main one is that you need specialized developers to program FPGAs, FPGA engineers, which are hard to come by. Not everyone can do that, and not everybody wants to do that. Me personally, during my studies, I didn't know what I want to do after I'm finished with school, but I knew I didn't want to work with FPGAs because they were too hard. Well, that's not how it turned out, but I still remember that FPGAs felt scary back then. So not everybody can do that, and if you find engineers, they are quite expensive. Already mentioned the time to market is longer compared to software because FPGAs in general are harder to program. Making changes, changing the functionality while possible, it takes longer than software. It's harder to test and debug, and in general, it's more expensive and less flexible than software. So that's how you pay for the better performance. There's a higher cost, and there's some pain with using FPGAs. And that's where we come in. So I wanted to quickly explain what we do, how we help our clients. We've built a framework that enables C++ programmability for FPGAs. That means you don't need a specialized engineers. Software developers can program FPGAs without previous experience, which also leads to shorter time to market. You can make changes to your strategy more quickly thanks to our tools, and the overall costs go down. The specialized engineers, it doesn't take as long, and you get better flexibility while still keeping high performance. So I already mentioned the nanosecond level latencies. But what FPGAs also do is they basically eliminate jitter, which means how latency varies. Even though your average latency in software can be very fast, you can have tails when sometimes when there's a burst of data, your latency can go up. With FPGA, the latency profile is pretty much flat, so the latency is always the same within a few nanoseconds. So that's what we do. That's our expertise, and that's about it. What I had prepared, for this talk. It's not everything in with regards to latency, so I just wanted to mention a few topics, which didn't fit into the presentation. One big topic in the low latency game is wireless links, because wireless links today, or microwave links, are faster than a fiber cable. It was covered in a popular book, Flash Boys by Emily Weiss. If you haven't read it, it's not that educational, but I think it's a fun book, giving some insight into this kind of thing. And some like important wireless links are between Chicago and New Jersey. So the CME exchange and the stock exchange located in New Jersey, or the New Jersey Triangle. So the different stock exchanges are co-located near New Jersey, or even transcontinental like Chicago and London. So the first part of my talk all dealt with the situation where you're trading at a single exchange. That's where the signal comes from, and that's where your order goes to. But if you're forced to have your system spread geographically because you need to trade between two different places, that's where wireless links come in. Crypto world is another thing altogether. They don't really have co-locations there, so it doesn't really apply, not at this point. So let's not even go there. I would say that's a wild west at this point. And final thing I wanted to mention, just for completeness, is the ASIC custom hardware. So when even FPGAs aren't fast enough, you can trim a few more nanoseconds by using ASIC solution. But this is on the most expensive spectrum, because this means you would be investing millions of dollars in your infrastructure. So that might be hard to pay for. So that's why we like FPGA is the best. And that's all I had for today. So thank you for your attention, and we can get to your questions if there are any.
Amazing, Milan. That was an incredible session. I am sure that attendees have taken a lot of notes. And I personally enjoyed hearing your insights on low latency infrastructure and trading optimization. So I see there's a lot of comments in here asking a lot of things. So I'll just go one by one if that's okay. Perfect. So I believe there's a question from Rakesh who's asking, how is Magmio helping the industry with low latency solutions using FPGA, and do they have a presence or setup in Indian market?
Yeah, we do. And Indian market is a very interesting one. Like, it's a very dynamic market, a lot of opportunities there. So we have a couple of clients there, and we help companies who are trading with software and want to get slightly faster. We can help them move to FPGAs and move to even lower latencies quicker, or even potential clients who are not trading yet but would like to start trading at NSE, since we have already implemented the market data protocol parsers and the order entry communication, you can get a shorter time to market. And there are many changes in India right now, like the biggest exchange, the NSE, National Stock Exchange of India, is planning a big change for next year, where they're deploying a new encryption mechanism for all orders in all orders entered into the market. And that will be even a bigger opportunity for FPGAs, because FPGAs can handle the encryption faster than software solutions. If you're interested in more, feel free to reach out to me or LinkedIn. We can definitely chat further.
Amazing. Thank you for answering that. I think that was an interesting question. There's another one from Deepak who's asking, I remember seeing a demonstration by someone with a 4G essays analyzer which had a slight deformation of signal due to the bending of copper wires. Can we expect latency issues from this? If yes, are exchanges obliged to take care of this?
So I must say I haven't heard about this one, but exchanges are typically using optical cables because they're just easier to manage over longer distances, which is what they need to do. So I don't think that's an issue. And we ourselves are using copper wires, to connect the switch to the trading servers. And there you want to use, as short cables as possible, typically only through, in a single rack. So that would be 1, 2, or maybe 3 meter cables. So I don't think the effect would be very big on such short distances, but I'm not sure, to be honest. Just my thought.
All right, thank you for that. There's another one from Irene from DRW who's asking, what is the biggest misconception traders or investors have about market risk today? I'm not sure if you want to get that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a question maybe for Tickmill, somebody today. So, as I said, we're not trading ourselves. So while we are working with some companies to implement their risk, we are just handling the technology side. So I can't really comment on this one.
All right, thank you so much, Milan. I think we will be wrapping up your session here today. Thank you for joining us and making some time to share your incredible insights with the attendees this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the show. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
To set ring like tones when we executed a trade. So like my one was a money noise. It would go ka-ching, ka-ching, like the bankroll machine when you're making money. And then another one was like you make this kind of noises as they're coming. And then the guy who had that noise, his machine was going crazy. All like just noise was going again and again. I was like wondering what the hell is going on? Why is he going off so crazy? Then I look around and he saw this opportunity and he just seized it. So he saw it, it was clear, he understood it, and he just took it. And for me, I always would say that, look, opportunities are not going to always arise. If it's there, you see it clearly, you've tested this in the past, you back your energy, you back your instinct, and you take it.
Amazing. Thank you so much once again, Himal. And I remember one of my mentors in the early days mentioned this to me that, when an opportunity comes, you say yes and figure it out later. So I've always taken that with me as well. So amazing. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just as a last point, I just want to say to everybody who's here, thank you for being here, that you're investing in yourself, you're investing in the career, you're investing in your own education and understanding. Please do go and sign up for Arjun Global's mailing list and look out for more of our events. We're going to be doing so much more digital. But now over to the next speaker. So thank you. Thanks, Neha.
Thank you so much.